The Monaco Grand Prix is one of the most famous tracks on the F1 calendar. It represents the very essence of Formula One, wealth and money. Everywhere you go, you'll see luxury shops and expensive apartments. And even the coastline is flooded with yachts during the F1 weekend. But I really want to focus on the size of Monaco. It's one of the smallest countries in the world, and this of course leads to the Monaco racetrack itself being very small. This is not only the shortest track on the F1 calendar, at only 3.3 kilometers long. Even the race itself is only 250 kilometers long, rather than the usual 305 kilometers that you see on every other F1 track. Now the biggest deal, or rather the smallest part of Monaco, is the runoff, where most racetracks have grass and gravel runoffs separating the road from the barrier. Monaco has barriers placed right next to the edge of the track. This means any mistake you make will more than likely result in a crash, making this one of the hardest tracks to drive in F1. So I thought it would be a good idea to do a challenge around Monaco. Can I get a 1 minute 10 lap or faster on a controller with 0 assists? For reference, my fastest ever lap around this track was set in F1 2020, where I was only 7/10ths off. But the thing is, I'm doing this on F1 2021, where they actually made the cars slower and harder to drive. Day 1. So the first day happened off camera, where I was getting familiar with the game after not playing for a month. I was mainly recording some other videos that you'll see in the future. Now before we start driving, I first need to get a setup. I don't make my own setups, I just steal them off the time trial leaderboard. So let's try and do a try not to crash challenge around Monaco, and let's see how far we can make it without crashing into a wall. Now coming through Rascas, of course the AI is driving right now. Okay, so now let's begin the challenge. Coming out of the final corner, and the car getting a little loose there as we apply the power. As we're now coming down the straight, braking for turn 1, turning inside and almost understeering into the wall. As we're now heading up the hill through Beau Rivage, getting close to the walls, but not, as we use the back end, and wow, the challenge only lasted about 12 seconds. Wow. So I decided to turn down the rear suspension so the car has more grip on the rear, but that didn't help. We finally get our first clean lap, which means we've got to make up 4.5 seconds of lap time. After a couple of mistakes, I discovered that you can accelerate a bit before braking for the hairpin, and I gained a lot of time by doing that. I then improved my lap by nearly 1.5 seconds, then improving again to put us under the 1 minute 12s and ending the day inside of the top 19%. After yesterday's success of improving by an entire 2.5 seconds, I decided to set today's goal. Set a lap time below 1 minute 11 seconds. For some reason I had the driving line on, so we fixed that, and after a couple of mistakes, we finally set our first clean lap, which is a 1:11.8. Let's play a game. Which sector do you think I'll make the most mistakes in? Sector 1 is from turn 1 up until the right-hander just before the hairpin. Sector 2 is from the right-hander through the hairpin and up to and including Tabac. Sector 3 is the swimming pool section up until the end of Rascas. Pick one and let's see if you're right or wrong. On lap 8 I took Tabac perfectly before messing up the rest of the lap. Interesting fact, the name Tabac is a reference to the tobacco shop right next to this corner. We finally set our first clean lap in a while. It's pretty slow, but it's funny how I would have been happy with this lap just yesterday. Going full throttle through the main straight, heading into turn 1, braking carefully, trail braking in, and thankfully no lap invalidations through turn 1 as we now head up through Beau Rivage, over into Massenet, braking and trying to get close to the inside of the track but not touching the wall, as I have to make a few adjustments there mid-corner, and now heading downhill into this right-hander. We understeer a bit as we lock up, but thankfully we are still up on our delta as we now head over to Portier, running a bit wider than I would have liked, but thankfully we don't mess up any worse than that, as we now 4/10ths up on our previous best lap time, heading into the Nouvelle chicane, turning left and right, cutting as much as we can without getting a penalty. As into the back we go, running wide and bumping into the wall. Somehow we didn't get invalidated, but we do get a purple sector through the mid middle part of the track. Now heading into Raskas, we actually lose all of that time we've gained just temporarily, and then into the final corner we go red again, but thankfully our exit is good enough and we're about to finish the lap 2/10 up. Day 3. Today I decided to try using the Ghost to see if it would make me any faster. Spoiler alert, it didn't. When we barely brushed the wall at Beau Rivage, we got an invalidation. I then have the craziest comeback where I go from being 3/10 down to finishing the lap 3/10 up. That 1:11 is so close. I felt like the car had too much understeer and decided to change some settings. After 7 laps, I finally set another clean lap, and now we're getting really close to the 1:10s. I changed some settings again, and then we begin our final lap. And now heading into the main straight, hugging the inside as much as possible, heading into turn 1, spotting our braking point and just losing a bit of time on the exit, but thankfully we're actually almost level with our previous best, going green just a bit as we head into Massenet, and we're just still staying within range of our previous best, but now we're going 1/10 down, 2/10 down, but thankfully we gain a bit of time on the exit, but we lose even more time, almost half a second down as we head through the hairpin, but thankfully we're still gaining back some of that time. And through the exit we bump the wall and we lose even more time. We were almost about to be just under a 10th, but unfortunately for us we just lose a bit of time on that exit, breaking into the chicane, carrying as much speed as I can in the entry, but unfortunately the exit was just too weak because I braked way too late, and now we're losing time again through this middle sector as we're heading through the swimming pool section, gaining some time through the chicane there, but losing it again. We're actually level with our previous best delta again, and now we're in the green just as we head through Raskas, and now we're going to be about 3/10 up on our previous best as we hug the inside and cross the line with a 1:10.7. We are now in the top 8% in cockpit view and with no assists. We are now half a second up on our previous best as the car becomes really loose, and unfortunately we spin the car. Can we get it right this time? 3rd time's the charm, right? Maybe the 4th time? At least we didn't crash this time. After slipping on the outside curb, I decide to change some more car settings. A stiffer roll bar for more extra rotation. We finally have our first crash at the hairpin. We then finally set a clean lap, but we're almost a second down. I then mess up to back and the car gets loose, leading to this huge accident. The car almost flipped over. I then mess up the section again. This day is not going well so far. Fun fact, deleting your personal best Ghost will actually remove your lap time off of the time trial leaderboard. This can be very useful if you want to keep your setup a secret. I then decide to try a different setup. After another crash in the swimming pool section, I decide to call it a day. The first time we've had no improvement at all. And now we're on to the final day. It is literally now or never. I have to leave to go to university and won't have another chance to play F1 2021 for a long time. This is pretty much the most intense session of the day, and it's only made worse by the fact that I've got 30 minutes before the power goes out. So I get busy and set a purple sector after purple sector, but can never get a good lap in. I eventually run out of time, but decide to take the risk and continue driving. This was a big mistake. Around 10 minutes later, The power went out and all of my hard work was gone. It also meant that my recordings were corrupted. Is this how we're gonna end it? On such a disappointing note? Thankfully not, because the power came back and I got 10 minutes to try and set a good lap. Mistake, another mistake, and another mistake. It looks like we might not get it today or ever, until I finally set my first clean lap. And now, on to the final lap. It's all or nothing on this one. Can we manage to make up the time we need to win this challenge? As we head into turn 1, we brake, trail braking inwards, and we actually are losing time through turn 1 as we head up Beau Rivage. Now into Massenet. Are we going to take this correctly? We get really close to the inside and actually almost bump into the wall as we exit the other right-hander. Braking in here, we understeer, which is not what we want, especially as this is our final lap. This is not going to look good on the timing screens, but thankfully we're actually improving a bit as we head down the hill and now over into the tunnel. We're actually still in the green, but we're still losing time against our delta as we drive through the tunnel. Now into the Noval chicane, braking hard but a bit more conservatively because I don't want to get a penalty, so we actually lose a bit of time there as we now head into the back, flicking the car in and bumping the wall on the outside. Hopefully the game doesn't change its mind and give us an invalidation as we now head through over to Raskas, being a bit conservative there, almost having to straighten out the wheel a bit to avoid bumping into the inside wall, heading into the final corner with a good exit, and now we're going to hug the inside and let's see where we're going to finish. So let's go ahead and see where we ended up on the leaderboard. The game is taking its time, so I'll just tell you it was 110.7. Now while we might have failed the challenge, I'm still very happy with the lap because after all, F1 2021 is the one F1 game that I've played the least out of from the last 3 games that I've bought. But honestly, if I wanted to go faster, I'd definitely switch to a different camera and then also turn on a couple of assists. If you want to find out how much time you can gain from turning on assists, then check out this video on the screen.